Welcome to the Level Up English podcast, the best place to come to practice the English language, learn about the British accent and culture, with me, your host, Michael Lavers. Hello, English learners, and welcome back to the Level Up English podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I really hope you enjoy this episode because it's a really exciting one. I'm joined today by Rod, the English teacher, a fantastic, really friendly, amazing guy from Brazil. We'll be talking with him in just a little bit. If you do feel like you need some extra help and you want to make use of the podcast transcripts, then as always, you can go to my website, which is levelupenglish.school. There'll be a members button at the top if you want to, and then once you become a member, you can access all of the transcripts, so you can read the subtitles of every episode. So that should help you. And yeah, feel free to come over and see what we're doing on the website too, because we've got group classes we're going to be doing on Sundays. We've got other courses, IELTS exam course, all this kind of stuff that I think should help you. So again, that's all at levelupenglish.school. And yes, today is our special conversation episode. And that also means that you can watch this in one of two places. So maybe some of you are listening on your podcast app, but I'm also uploading these onto YouTube as well. So if you want to watch this episode on YouTube and you want to see me, hello, then you can search on YouTube for the Level Up English podcast, and you should be able to find my channel there. But anyway, yes, so today's episode I spoke with Rod. He initially invited me onto his channel on YouTube to have a talk with him, and it was amazing to get to know him, and he's such a positive and inspirational person. He has many years teaching experience, and even though he's not a native speaker, right, his English is essentially perfect, better than mine, I can say. So I really hope you enjoy this episode, and yeah, check him out. Check him out on Instagram. I'll put his link on the page here. In this episode today, we talk a little bit about overcoming adversity, which means problems. Whatever problems you think you have in life, whatever problems you're facing, we talk about how to overcome them and not let these things hold you back from getting what you want. Rod says some really inspirational stuff today, and it's really interesting. And then we also hang around on the private podcast later to talk a bit about culture in different countries. Okay, without any more delay, let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am really happy to be joined today by Rod, the English teacher. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. We did speak before, didn't we, on your channel, on your page. I really enjoyed that.
We had an interview, an awesome interview. It was amazing. Thank you again.
Yeah, I was really happy to be invited. And as we were just saying a second ago, now it's kind of your turn to be put on the hot seat a little bit, so we can find out more about you.
Yeah.
So on that note, maybe could you give us a little bit of an introduction as to who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Well, my actual name is Rodrigo, which I made short for Rod to make it easier to be understood and pronounced. And I am a non-native English teacher in Brazil for over 25 years. I am dating myself a little bit now, but there's
you don't look it, don't worry.
And English is my life. That's what I love to do, teaching people and interacting with people all the time.
Perfect. Fantastic. So you've got a lot of good experience there. What kind of work are you doing at the moment then? How does that show up in your life now?
I am teaching online remotely most of the time, 100% of the time. My wife and I work together. She's also an English teacher. We have 2 children, a teenager and a preschooler. It's madness. And I teach like 10 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
So it's crazy. Yeah,
So you have 10 to 12 hours in lessons?
in lessons, yes.
I've never heard
I
of
only
anyone that does
have,
that many.
yeah, I only have lunchtime from midday to 1.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I think when I first started teaching online, I was regularly doing 8 hours a day, and then sometimes I would
Mm-hmm.
do nine. I think my maximum was 10, and it was just like once or something like that.
Yeah,
I found it horrible, to be honest. And the worst part is, I found after that much speaking, I would lose my voice the next day.
yeah.
How
No, I totally get it.
how do
Mm.
you manage it? How do you? Obviously, you maybe have some passion for it, but like, how do you do that and
Yeah.
not burn out?
Well, to start, I can tell you that I speak more English than Portuguese because I speak English all this time teaching, and as far as my voice is concerned, I have to drink some water. And at the end of the day, I am almost dying, but I love what I do. So, because my classes are, I'm teaching more like a dogma style of teaching now, uh, which I think it's even harder because it's also all the time improvisation, you know.
Mm.
I come to the student and I say, "What do you want to talk about today?" And they say, "I don't know. You're the teacher." I said, "No, you pay me. What you want to learn today?" So we start a conversation, and from the conversation, I start teaching them. So it's going good. It's going great. I have students around Brazil, and I live in a little country town in the state of São Paulo, you know, so
Mm. Fantastic. Oh, it sounds so nice.
that's
Wow.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious how you began your journey then. So like what happened, what was it, 25 years ago that made you want to
Yeah.
start doing things in English and all that kind of stuff?
Well, actually, I'm a teacher for 25 years. I started learning English 34 years ago. I was 7 years old.
Mm.
I was at home watching TV Saturday afternoon, and I saw Madonna on TV. It was 1985. And I looked at my father and I said, I want to go to school to learn English because I want to learn what this lady is talking about because she's so beautiful and flamboyant. And I was totally infatuated by her, you know. So the next day, my father was a bank teller his whole life, and he said, I'm gonna look into it for you. And the next day during lunchtime in Brazil, he told me, hey, I went to the English school that we have here and I signed you up. You're going to start your classes on Monday. And I was 7. And of course, I did all the course. So it was 10 years studying. And I fell in love with English on the very first day, but I didn't have the chance to choose in between American English or British English because the school was focused on American English. And it was my passion, you know. And when I graduated, I was 17. The principal came up to me and said, hey, you're not leaving the school. I said, how come? She said, you're going to teach with me. I said, you're crazy. I don't know how to teach. She said, you do know. And I said, how? But I need some guidance. And she told me, can I say a word here that I think it's not swearing, but it's a bit strong. If you don't want, you
Yeah,
can
go for it, go for
cut
it.
it.
I can always edit it
But
out
and
later.
yeah, and she told me, I'll give you the guidance that you need. That is, you know what? I'm gonna put you inside the classroom, and I'm gonna kick your behind, close the door, and leave. The only thing that I teach you, that I can teach you, is be humble, honest, and always remember that nobody knows better than a teacher when they're starting to learn English. Always speak from your heart. And that's what I do up to today,
Wow.
you know?
So you really got like thrown in at the deep end and right from the beginning.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I started teaching, I was 17 to 18, and then that's my passion ever since.
Oh, amazing. It's kind of interesting to get experience teaching from such a young age because I think most people would be
Yes,
studying
yes.
until early 20s to become a teacher.
And there's
And
a lot of obstacles as well,
Mhm.
because sometimes older people don't want to be taught by you
That's a good point.
because
Yeah.
they think that you are too young. And actually, I had two hindrances. The fact of being too young in Brazil and teaching older people, and also because I was a disabled person.
Mm-mm.
Because once I have taught that I have talked about this on my channel already, and I told that one student once came to me and said, "Are you going to teach me this way?" I'm sorry, I said, because my disability, I have one third of your balance. So I need help walking, or I have a lot of shortcomings when I walk. But uh, so he saw me walking and going into the classroom, and he asked me, "Are you going to teach me this way?" I said, "Yes. What do you mean? Are you going to teach me walking this way?"
Mm.
And then I said, "Yes. And I'm sorry. If you don't like my class, let me teach you one class. If you don't like my class, we can find another teacher for you." And he said, "Okay, all right." And at the end of the class, he came up to me and said, "I'm sorry." His eyes were filled with tears. And I said, "For what?" Because I didn't even remember the story anymore. I have such a thick skin when I talk about my disability because I totally forget about it. And he said, "Of what I said about your disability, I judged the book by its cover, you know?"
Hmm.
So I said, "No, no, no worries. You know what?" I told him, "If you like my class, come to the next one and let's learn more English." And then 4 years later, I had the chance to give the student his diploma. He
Amazing.
graduated with me. That's an amazing story, you know. I think he learned a little bit more than English. He learned some personal stuff, along the journey. But it's my career. It's what I love to do. I learn a lot from my students, from my guests on my channel. That's
Hmm.
pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. I think learning is like a two-way process,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I also think it's tough being a teacher. I imagine in a
Hmm.
school because when I think back
Yeah.
from when I was a student in school,
Hmm.
teachers would get all this hate to
Yeah.
shouted at them. I think
Hmm.
especially like teenagers, we kind of have this
Hmm.
idea that teachers don't have feelings. They're not real
Yes.
people. They live in the
Yes.
school. They don't have feelings. So
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that makes it challenging.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you mentioned that you have a naturally thick skin, which is very handy. I
Hmm.
wish I had that. I mean, did you
Hmm.
have that for your whole life, or did you develop it through practice? Because I think.
I had to develop it because if I hadn't developed this thick skin, I would have gone crazy because I have dealt with rejection ever since I was born.
Mhm.
My father's parents never accepted me because I was a disabled kid at birth.
Mm.
And I'm not victimizing myself here. I'm telling just the story. I don't play the victim card. My parents taught me this, and I think it's very important. They never pat on my back when I did something wrong or whatever. And but I had to develop thick skin, or else I would go crazy. I would go insane, because uh, um, people at school, they would mimic me. They would try to provoke me because I was always eager to learn, and I think because my brain works perfectly. The problem that I have is not neurological,
Mhm.
so it was a medical error uh, during my mother's delivery, and my brain's perfect. So I have a physical condition, not something that impairs me from teaching or from talking to you. And my father's parents, they were and they are very strict. And I was crazy about English ever since I was little, as I told you. And once I came to my grandfather with my English test in my hand, happily showing him that I got the maximum grade because I was crazy about English and such. And he told me, no, what matters to me is math. When you get a 10 in math, that's okay. English doesn't matter to me. And
Mm,
today I'm talking to you at the other side of on the other side of the world.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I was never good at maths either, but
yeah,
I think yeah, people put a lot of importance on that. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
learning any language is such a huge accomplishment, isn't it? And it can open so many doors for you.
yeah,
And probably as someone in a non-English speaking country, English is
yeah,
probably going to be one of the most useful things you can learn. You know, if you don't learn English in
yeah.
the modern world, it's going to be so limiting, isn't it?
I totally agree. I'm laughing because in Brazil only 5% of the population speaks English.
Really, wow.
Yeah. And
Mm,
we're more than 200 million people.
big
So
country, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Um, yeah. How about when it came to well, I thought one topic we could look at today was like
Hmm.
overcoming adversity. I
Of
think
course.
I got the idea. I think when we spoke, you mentioned it right at the end of our chat, something about overcoming adversity and problems
Hmm.
with your disability and things like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, what advice would you give to people who are in similar positions? Maybe they want to develop that thick skin, or they want to overcome adversity. Another word for that for the listeners is like a
Of
hurdle,
course.
a obstacle, a problem that you need to
Well,
overcome.
yeah, it depends on the way you see it because but the first thing I can say is never give up.
Hmm.
Never ever give up. Even though you go through a terrible journey or people's you'll always have the naysayers at your side.
Hmm.
You're not gonna do it. It's not possible. Nothing is impossible when you want it. So I think two important things when you are a disabled person is one of them is to be um, um, never give up, as I told you, and the second one is be to be the strongest that you can be.
Hmm.
So if you, okay, you want to cry, you were hurt, cry when you want to. Don't let it hold you back. Dry your tears and keep going. That's the fact. Um, when I was learning English and when I started learning English, a friend of mine told me one of these days, he told me, "Oh, really? Your disability does affect the way you speak English. There's nothing to do with it. The guy story, that student story, doesn't match because having an ability of being a teacher doesn't have anything to do with the way you walk or the physical disability you have. So, for all your listeners, never give up. Always, always get up, shake it off, and go on. So it hurts, but it doesn't kill you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So
Yeah,
that's my advice.
yeah. It's so inspirational, and I'm really inspired by, say, if you look at people like in the Paralympics or something like that, where they have these
Mm-hmm.
often, yeah, or very obvious disabilities, and
Mm-hmm.
I imagine what they do is they don't dwell on their disability. They don't think, oh, I can't run like this person. I can't do whatever because whatever disability it is. But I suppose they focus they focus
Mm-hmm.
building up another skill, don't they? So maybe because okay, I'm not going to run like a person with two legs, let's say, but maybe I can
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
mentally stronger than anyone here
Yeah,
or something like that. So it's so
totally.
inspiring to see that people don't give up and they focus on what they can change rather than what they
Yeah.
can't change.
In Brazil, sometimes we are taken as a known person, you know?
Say
A
that again.
known in Brazil, we're taken as a known person sometimes, like we don't exist.
Okay.
Sometimes I go with my wife to places, and when I go to big places, I go in my wheelchair, and sometimes I don't have space to go through. And she goes and kicks it because she doesn't have a lot of patience. So that's why I say sometimes it shows that we are a known person. We shouldn't leave our house sometimes. They like they have a disability, but I don't mind, I don't care, that's their problem. And one thing that I want to tell you as well is that I advocate not only for people with a disability, I advocate for any kind of minorities, LGBTQ, A plus, whatever it is. I think we should always be together, helping each other, because it's minorities have to come together, and we'll rise together, above everything else. So I think that I think RESPECT, or respect, is the most important thing that we should have. Like, how are you? Where are you from? How can I help you? I'm here for you, whatever you need. We have to learn to be more warmer, I suppose. We have to be warmer, more sensitive, more sensible. That's what's missing right now. We're actually longing. We're in between a pandemic and another lockdowns and not lockdowns. We should be more sensitive. I think that's what's lacking now.
Hopefully people are kind of waking up to that, and things are changing a little bit because people are realizing that's been lacking in the pandemic. Hopefully people will come to that realization. But I really like that outlook on life, because of course, many people have disabilities, and I think to different extents, everyone has some kind of, let's say, like limitation, or what they believe is a limitation anyway, where it could be like a disability, but it could just be something you're not so good at, or something like that. And I imagine one tip would just be avoid comparing yourself to other people. That's always a good thing to avoid. But yeah, like
yes, I can tell you that when I was much younger, when I was a kid, there was some kind of playful stuff in school that you should hold the hand of your colleague or of your friend, and some people didn't want to hold my hand because they were afraid of walking like I did, because they were holding my hand. So sometimes the principal of the school should call my mother and the mothers of other children to explain that what I have is nothing that passes to another person or whatever. But it's always you live, you learn, as Alanis Morissette liked to sing. We live, we learn. So the more we learn, the less we know.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, obviously not related to your disability now, but have you had any adversity or any obstacles when it comes to learning English? Like, obviously your English is fantastic now, but in the early days, do you remember any really challenges you had?
No. It was very easy. I never studied for a test.
Yeah.
For an English test. It was so natural to me. Because for me, shadowing, what we call shadowing today, I did it in my early days. Like, if you were my teacher, I would shadow you the way you would speak some words. And I had a wonderful teacher when I was learning English. I have an interview through on my channel. I call the interview my Forever English Teacher. And she was awesome. And when you have a great teacher, you'll learn the best way.
Yeah.
The only thing I had to train a little bit and to practice a little bit later on were the THs. Apart from
still
that,
can't do
nothing.
Them, so.
Yeah. Only that.
Yeah.
Only that.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, shadowing is a great technique for listeners. It's kind of copying just what people are saying, basically, trying to mimic the way they're saying it.
Yeah.
I do that too. It's very useful. I mean, maybe you don't. I was going to ask if you have any tips then for learners who are having
I
difficulty
do.
learning. Yeah,
I do, if you allow me.
of course.
First thing you should do is changing or swapping your phone menu to the language you're learning.
Mm.
Is the first exposure you're going to have, because you're going to learn the words in English, let's say so. Let's suppose that you are learning English. You swap everything to English, and there's a good progress. Another thing that I tell my students, if you like Netflix, if you like something, if you're watching a series, play the series loud and go do the dishes. Go be close to the television, but don't look at the TV. Don't look at the TV. So you can learn and improve your listening a lot with this. So these are one of my tips. And another tip that I have is, again, never give up. Once you get to the intermediate plateau, which is dreadful to any kind of student, don't give up, because you're gonna get better.
Yeah, I love that. I think having a name for the intermediate plateau is really helpful, because I feel like I've been on it for a long time in my Japanese
Yeah.
learning. I'm slowly. I feel like I'm slowly leaving it. I feel like I'm on the other side to some extent. But
Yeah.
if I didn't know there was such a thing
Mhm.
as the plateau, I
Mhm.
probably would have given up. It's really
Yeah.
nice just to know that it's very normal to
Yeah.
feel like progress slows down.
Yeah.
But yeah, great advice. Yeah.
And if you allow me to put my 2 cents in a little bit more here, in my master's degree, I studied accent reduction.
Okay.
And some people come to me, are you prejudiced to accents? I said, no. And so why you studied it? I said, if I wanted, I had studied accent elimination, but accents are beautiful. So I studied accent elimination for Brazilian students, so they could be better understood and make themselves understood the best way possible, because it brings courage. It brings self improvement. When you don't have, let's suppose that you don't have a large vocabulary, but you have an awesome pronunciation, so you can carry a conversation for hours with everybody you're talking about in another language. So I love accents. I am not going to be totally free of my Brazilian accent on my English, because it's impossible. 2% of your native language is on your English, or on any language that you're learning. So it's beautiful when you talk with people from other countries and you can identify where they're from by their accent.
I agree.
I really do love it, but I studied accent reduction just to help students, not to eliminate accents. It would be a crime, because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I always say, I know it sounds a little bit, I don't know if it does sound bad, but I wonder if it just sounds a bit bad. But I feel like I've got friends who have accents. If they didn't have an accent, a foreign accent, I feel like they wouldn't be so interesting. Like I feel like when I hear like a beautiful accent, I want to be your friend. I want to know more about. I want to know where you're from. But if everyone sounds the same as me, for example, it'll be such a boring place to live.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
I mean, I get a lot of messages all the time asking, Michael, can I want to talk. I want to sound exactly like you. I want to have, your British accent, and I never quite know what to say to that. Like, I'm not so sure it's a good idea to want to kind of copy someone else's way of speaking. Maybe you should develop your own natural accent, and rather than copy someone else.
I agree. I think we have to improve our accents, not to eliminate them.
Yeah.
Okay. To avoid a noise communication. I think everybody knows what that is. when you want to say something and you say another thing, that's a good thing to do.
Mhm.
But accent is identity. It's impossible to let go, so and I think it's so beautiful, as you said. You talk to Argentine people, you talk to Irish people. We all have accents, so
Yeah, I don't think there's any accent in the world that you shouldn't be proud of. I
yeah.
try to feel that way about myself as well. Like when I, go to a new city around England, people are going to be, "Oh,
Hmm.
you're not from here, are you?" And then I feel like I can tell you about where I'm from. I'm proud of it now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good
That's true.
attitude.
Hmm.
Do you have this? I think it's a tough question, but are you aware
Mm.
if you have any limiting beliefs, like self-limiting beliefs about what you can do? Maybe it's stopping you from progressing in some area of your life.
Well, I can tell you something very personal. The only thing that my disability has stopped me from was doing some parenting stuff with my children.
Mm.
Like playing with them, helping them how to ride a bike, to learn it. But unfortunately, I have my father who plays this role for me, but that's something really sad because you want to teach your child yourself, but I had to come to terms with it, Michael. I can't do it, and I explained to them that he doesn't do it because he can't, and they can see and understand, but in other areas, I can help them. I talk to them. I I try to make them be the best they can be,
Hmm.
so in a sense, as a person, as a human being.
Yeah.
And mostly I want them to be happy anyway, at any cost,
Hmm.
So
I like that. Yeah.
that's what I can tell you about what stopped me from achieving something.
Mm-mm. I mean, I love the topic of like limiting beliefs because I think everyone has
Yeah,
them, whether it
yeah.
is very like a mental thing that just isn't actually the case. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think maybe what you're saying is like focus on what you do have and what you can do, not what you don't have
Yeah.
and what you cannot do.
If you want to do something, find a way to do something. Find a way to do something that you really like. Like I am, I can say that I have a good obsession about English. So I studied English. I study English every day. You know, in my channel, my interviews, I learn a lot. Because I interview different people from around the world. And when I had an interview with you, it was such a high level. I said, wow, what an interview that was.
Well,
And then because before having the interview with you, I was doing the agenda, what kind of questions that I would ask you, and then I bumped with a video on your channel where you teaching etymology. That was
mhm.
crazy because I love it.
Yeah.
You were teaching like the meaning or the origin of the word dashboard. I said, wow, that's crazy,
I'm
and
so
he's so
fascinated by that.
young and I love etymology. And I said, oh, I think it's going to be an awesome. So this is the way I study,
Hmm.
so I learn from you and you learn from me. And we are playing a game during the interviews, so with everybody.
Mm.
I think that's why I love so much to tell people stories on my channel. So.
Yeah. 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 I heard a great quote before, which is, and
Hmm.
any story you don't tell is gonna die with you, right? I don't
Hmm.
know, maybe that sounds a bit dark now, but
Hmm.
it's kind
No,
of
no,
like
no.
sometimes you're like, no, do I tell that? Do I not? But then like if you don't tell it, no one's gonna hear it. So I think it's quite nice to talk about these things, and maybe someone's gonna grab some inspiration from it, and yeah, you'll inspire someone today. I'm
Yeah,
sure you have.
to tell you the truth, I really like it when people let their guard down.
Hmm.
And when I go to the rapid round game or to the fire round questions, as you say, people immediately let their guard down.
That was
So
very scary. Yeah, you asked me quick questions on your show.
because it's something very poignant,
Mhm.
and I love to play that, and I also love to ask and answer them at the same time, because I ask you guys to, as you know, to ask me those kind of questions. That's amazing.
Mm-mm. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any? So yeah, just to explain again to the listeners, because this is a fairly new thing I'm
Of
doing,
course.
is Rod and I are going to continue our talk. We're going to talk for 15 minutes or so on the private podcast in just a second.
Okay.
But for the main podcast, we'll finish up here in a second. But
Mm-hmm.
on this, big podcast, do you have any final tips or anything you want to say to the listeners that we haven't had the chance to talk about yet?
You mean about, I'm gonna talk about languages in a poetic way, if you allow me.
Yeah.
The first one is never doubt yourself. The second one is never stop dreaming. And the third one is a quote from John Lennon where he says, "I am a dreamer, but I'm not the only one." So with those 3 tips, you can do whatever you want in life
Yeah.
and keep going.
Very inspirational. Fantastic. Nice. Well, I guess we can end it here then, but it's been so brilliant to talk with you. Before we go, would you like to tell people where they can find out more about you online and your channels online?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram as Rod the Teacher. And my main platform is my YouTube channel, Rod the English Teacher. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps the channel grow a lot. There's an awesome interview with Michael there. I think you're gonna love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. I'll put links to your pages on the show notes so people can find it more easily. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You have been listening to the Level Up English podcast. If you would like to leave a question to be answered on a future episode, then please go to levelupenglish.school/podcast. That's levelupenglish.school/podcast. And I'll answer your question on a future episode. Thanks for listening.